Looks like Robin lost her egg. How's everybody doing today? If you watched any of my videos, you might have come across me wearing this t-shirt. You might have asked, hey, what's a middle-aged guy doing with a frog t-shirt? Well, today we're going to take a look at the reason why I have the t-shirt, a little bit of the backstory, why the shirt is sentimental to me, and basically going to go over it. Something a little different. You're not going to see it too often out in the real world, although there are still several of them around. So without further ado, this is my 1976 Hodaka Road Toad. It's 100 cc's. It's basically an all original bike aside from the Oakley grips. They've been on there for, well, since the bike's been in my possession, which is well over 40 years. Brad Lackey, Bob Hanna, somebody cool. One of my childhood heroes must have had those things, so they're on the bike. Hopefully you guys can see. It has 1,777 original miles. The story of how this ended up in my possession is pretty interesting. My father was heavily into motorcycles. I was put on a motorcycle, a Q50 Honda. I was probably 5, maybe 6 years old, and I've been on dirt bikes ever since. And I grew up in a very rural area, a lot of dairy farms, and you could basically ride all over the place as a, kid, teenager, what have you, with very little repercussions. I mean, as long as you stay to the outside of people's cornfields and alfalfa fields, nobody ever said anything. And pretty much all of my friends had dirt bikes. And growing up, we've had all sizes of XRs, 75s, 80s, 200. And then, of course, you get into street bikes and all that other stuff. And, there was two strokes, RM125s and all that. So in 1979 or 80, my father won this at a church raffle. It wasn't even our church. I think it was somebody that he went to work with. And he bought a raffle ticket and he just won it. And Hodaka's kind of got an interesting story. They produced frames and were kind of the forefathers of the modern dirt biking movement. And it was a company out of Oregon. I forget the name of it exactly. But yeah, they were an American company. They bought motors or partnered with Hodaka to put motors in all these dirt bike frames. And this happens to be a dual sport one. And they lasted until the late 70s. And at the time they were owned by Shell. And I guess Shell didn't want to be bothered anymore or what have you. And it pretty much all just died. So I think maybe in 77 or 78 the company went out of business. But in 1980, this thing was probably worth nothing. Somebody decided to get rid of it for a church auction, and that's how it ended up in my possession. Now, at the time, like I said, my brothers and I all had dirt bikes, various sizes. I was riding an XR200, so this really didn't see too much use. And in fact, we didn't need it at the house, and it was left at my grandparents' house, who owned a small farm a few towns away, and we ride this around the farm or whatever when we were down there visiting, what have you. So yeah, it's a little over, let's just call it 1,800 miles, pretty much all just going around in a circle at my grandparents' house. Now, today, it's got QQ plates on it. Older son's learning how to ride on it. Unfortunately, I don't live too far from where I grew up, but it's much more developed. There's hardly any farms around. You just couldn't ride a dirt bike, and I don't have the property for it myself. So yeah, besides we're into mountain bikes, kayaks, and other stuff. So yeah, he's been learning how to ride on it. And we have other motorcycles at my house, street bikes, KLR 650 and stuff like that. So yeah, he's gonna get his motorcycle license, but this is nice and low to the ground, easy for him to ride. So yeah, pretty much all original, except for those grips, like I said. And yeah, it sat in my grandparents' barn after we all went to college and nobody was riding it anymore. Sat in my grandparents' barn for like 10 years, sat in my father's barn for 10 years, and then it sat in my barn for the last 20 years probably. And just recently took it out. Carb was all froze, but a little bit of work, got it going. There's some minor things I have to do to it still, like the spring that pulls the brake, well, I don't know what they call it, but the little relay or whatever for the brake light, that like is fully on all the time. So I got to get a little spring for that, and I'm running premix in it, running it with the premix instead of the oil injector because I wasn't 100% sure that was working, so I just capped that off, and better safe than sorry as far as that goes. Yeah, even the only thing that you might notice that's missing is the little toolkit rack on the back. I have that. It's in a box in my garage. That's probably the nicest part of the bike. There's not a mark or a little bit of rust on it at all. It looks brand new. But yeah, it's could be bolted back on there in 2 seconds. Other than that, yeah, it runs pretty fine. No issues, especially after sitting for as long as it has. The seat's perfect. Everything's good. Stickers on the tank probably could be replaced. They're not bad, but the H is messed up on both sides a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty nostalgic. Now there's quite a few of these around still. In fact, all Hodakas. There's enough that they have a Hodaka Days in Oregon. I think in June or July every year. And I read online that somebody actually drove one of these all the way cross country on, I think it's called the Trail Across America or something. It's basically a dirt bike trail that goes from Tennessee to California, I think. Anyway, it basically goes cross country. So yeah, there's still quite a few of these around, but yeah, thought it would be just cool to have a little look at it. And this is the reason why my wife and kids got me that t-shirt years ago, and it's one of my favorite t-shirts, so you know, I wear it pretty often. And of course, sometimes you see that in a video. Alright, you guys want to see if it runs, right? I'm sure you do. A couple things, just for nostalgia's sake. I'm wearing a very old helmet. I would never wear this helmet out on the street in the real world. I wear a normal full face helmet, a modern helmet. I wear a jacket. I wear gloves. I wear boots and long pants, all that nonsense when I'm out riding a street bike. But for this, here in the parking lot, it's going to be fine, okay? So don't worry about me. I'm not riding around with this helmet on my head all the time. I gotta say, I look pretty awesome with this helmet. That was some good fun. Now, first off, that KLR is a Gen 2 KLR. Back in '86, I rode a 600, one of the Gen 1 ones. And, you know, it's a dinosaur. KLR is definitely not the most modern motorcycle out there, but compared to that Hodaka, wow, what a difference. Seat height, gas tank, suspension travel. It's crazy to have them side by side. I'll tell you what's more crazy. Look at the size of that tire on my wife's bike. My wife's fat tire bike compared to this thing. It's crazy. Look at it. It's enormous. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I just gotta say I'm here at the computer editing. What's going on with my hair? I'm editing that Hodaka video, and man, I got a lot of good shots, different camera angles. I did a good job on that one. Well, you know, for me, I went all out for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. So yeah, I just realized that I may not have said thanks for watching while I was filming a couple videos today. So, you know, you might see this ending on a couple of them. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, click, share, and subscribe. No, I don't do that. I don't give a shit what you do.